Welcome back to The Grinder, folks. Today we do have a special guest, and I'm not talking about James Chapman. James, how are you doing this morning?
Man, I'm phenomenal. I'm getting over a crazy sinus infection. So if I'm yelling at anybody, please forgive me. I mean, I still feel like my head's in a bucket of water. So I will probably try to be more quiet today because I feel like I'm screaming. Am I screaming right now?
No, you're fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll get fired up and actually start yelling. I don't know. We'll see where the day goes.
Let's hope so. Those are some of the best podcasts in the world. So today we do have a special guest. She is in real estate. She does probably a bunch of other things that I have not touched base on yet. So Alicia Maddox, introduce yourself. Tell us about you, what you do, how you do it, and then we'll rock and roll from there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for having me here today. I always love to collaborate with other business owners. And James, I hope you do start yelling at some point.
Yeah.
Get fired up. Yeah, I'm a local real estate agent here in Atlanta. I got licensed in 2020, so that typical COVID year licensed person. I got let go from my corporate career. I was in a sales business development role, and so I was relationship building to make sales, and that kind of translated into real estate, and I think helped me prepare how to negotiate, make relationships, and do all that. And now I'm on my third year and continuing to grow. And some other things that I've started to do is I've partnered with other agents in the area, and we've started a local realtor kind of collab group. We call it the Agent Collab, where we kind of teach people to attract and influence, kind of a more modern approach to real estate versus the more traditional methods, traditional broker type. We're not really about that. We're super modern with everything.
That's super cool.
Yeah. And then I also just outside of that, I host local happy hours and just kind of try to get the community together. I try to be very community based and everything.
Yeah. And that's something that I've noticed just from how, your branding aspect is that, right? Just from outside looking in, it's very much community. It's very much like local spots. And I've appreciated just being able to see that from somebody else that's also in the business, right? Being able to have somebody that is focused on the community aspect and that is able to do that type of thing is super cool, because it's exactly what you said. It's not the normal flow of real estate, right? It's usually like boom, boom, being on the phones, just hammering that stuff out. Whereas if you do take this approach, it's a slower growth process, but in the long run, I mean, it's community based, so it's stronger.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that it's a slower burn. I think when I first got licensed, I did one deal in 6 months. And just a little background, probably 85% of my business comes from social media directly. Wow. And then as I'm getting into year 3 now, it's becoming a little more referral based as well. Yep. But in the beginning, when you're newly licensed, especially during COVID, everyone's just kind of hypersensitive. They want to make sure you know what you're doing. And I think that's a newly real estate agent anyways. But I was just on social media posting every day. And finally, at that 6-month mark, kind of a snowball started to happen. And it just kind of started to build momentum, and then it exploded. I ended up selling 20 deals that year, serving 20 families. So basically did everything in 6 months that first year.
That's what's interesting to me is that, I kind of look at social media. This is me looking at it wrong, and this has proven it to me. I've looked at social media as kind of like the gold rush. Like, man, all the easy stuff's been picked up. The gold rush has happened. People are just trying to now fall on the bandwagon. Like, I do social media as I feel like it's a need. Like I have to do it. Like it's, I got to do that yellow page ad. It's social media now. What's funny to me is, so you started on it, what'd you say, 3 years ago?
2020.
So 2020, and you're talking about 85% of your business comes from that. That's astonishing to me. Like, it goes to show me how close-minded I still stay to social media and how much opportunity still exists on those platforms to grow my clientele.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is all about mindset. I think I mean, I went to school and got a degree in marketing and finance. And so people think maybe the marketing degree is what helped me have this idea to build a brand, because I knew I wanted to build a personal brand. I don't think I really knew what I was doing. I started with Instagram and I started a home decor page. I wasn't licensed yet. I was in the process of getting licensed. So I thought, I'm going to start this page. And by the time I get licensed, I'm going to have so many followers. I'm going to have so much clout that when I do get licensed, everyone's going to want to work with me. I think I had 500 followers when I did get licensed. So it was just showing up when no one was listening and just, giving real estate education the best I could as a new real estate, and just putting my face on camera and putting myself out there so that people could connect with me as a person. And it just grew from there.
I mean, I think that's the thing, man. People do business with people they like. And if they can't have the opportunity to even know who you are, how are they ever going to have the opportunity to like you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I knew I was never going to pick up the phone and cold call people because, like I mentioned, I've been in sales since I graduated college, and I love sales, but I like relationship sales. I'm not about to call random people and just spam them. And it still feels icky to me this day. So the only other way to do that was social media. It has been more difficult getting later on into real estate because it's almost like we're pioneering this way of getting business because it's not a proven method yet. There's not really any. I do strategies and it is very strategy based and process based, but I can't tell you if I post this many times, I get this many contacts. All I know is I can talk to people on the app. I can control that. I can't control how many people reach out to me though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that, real estate and just sales in general, it is such a numbers-based game that, once you're able to actually track that and play with that whole piece, and then you start dialing that in, you're like, I can make 6 posts today, and I'm gonna be able to at least touch 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. That's a big game changer right there. Once you can start playing with that.
Yeah, when I can track all that, I'll become probably a multimillionaire because I can teach that to other agents.
That's another thing, right? That's another thing. And then you could even take that and dial it in.
Yeah, I look at it as, people will sit on the phones for 3 hours and talk to maybe 100 people, maybe. I can do one post and it reaches like a minimum of 2,000 views. And that's just, to me, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me on the other side of it, like I got into the business 2012, and that's exactly I wanted to do that, right? I wanted to be that social media piece, and I couldn't figure it out, right? I was like, I didn't have the consistency that I needed at the time, and so I was like, okay, well, there's only one option, and that one option is I got to get on the phones. I got to start figuring that whole piece out. So I was trying to play both ends, but that's something that is very, very not hard to do. It's one of those things you have to be so consistent on, and that's exactly what you are.
Definitely consistent. That's just the name of the game. People ask me kind of how do you get started? How do you do anything? My whole thing is it doesn't really matter what you do. If you don't do it consistently, none of it will work. I mean, like I said, I didn't get my first real lead off of Instagram for 6 months, but I showed up every day for 6 months anyways.
Yep. And that's what it is. And James and I talk about that a lot. It's that gameplay of, you may not have everything that you need, but as long as you are consistently showing up to do what you're supposed to do and having exactly what you're supposed to do in front of you, it plays such a large game in the game of success.
Yeah. I mean, it's persistence, man, all the way.
Yeah. And what's that quote? There's, it's really good. I can't remember who it was by, but it's when no one's watching, show up. When people are watching, show up. When no one's cheering you on, show up. When people are cheering you on, show up. That's just like a good business rule of thumb anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I want to bounce back really quick because what's cool to me is, I like to see how problems create opportunities. I mean, it's just like me. I was late to getting on this podcast this morning because I was dealing with an issue, but it's like a good issue. We're growing like crazy, and it's creating problems for me, like new problems. I had a meeting this morning that's like, hey, we have so many problems that are happening right now. We can't keep them organized. So our number one problem right now is how do we organize the things that are problems? Like that's That's how much is going on right now. But there's opportunities in every single one of them. I know it. So I want to go back to the point I'm making is going back to where you were talking about, you had this career, you felt good in it, I'm assuming, and then things changed and you were let go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much has that turned out to be a good thing for you?
I mean, obviously a really good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 22, 23 when I first got into that position. You know, I was making good money, especially for that age, and not really expecting that. I definitely didn't like the corporate side of things. I didn't like having a micromanaging boss. I didn't like a lot of things going on with that. And I knew I wanted to do more. So while I was making money and I was traveling and experiencing all these nice things, it wasn't impacting any kind of purpose for me. I wasn't really impacting anyone's life. So for probably 3 years, I was every day, how can I do more? Like I want to have more impact. And at the time it felt really difficult. I didn't understand why I was really having to go through the trenches of being let go, and then COVID's happening and you're starting a career and everything. And now I see that was kind of meant to impact me so hard that I could help other people when they're going through that. So my mission now is to help other people get out of a corporate career they don't like and maybe start a career in real estate or anything. Really, it's helping people start any kind of career with social media. So since I have figured it out, now it's really not that hard. It's just getting past that fear of showing up as yourself consistently. You can do anything on there.
I love that. I mean, that's the thing, man. There's been so many times with my business, just in life, the path, and that's the season it's in, or that path, how it changes or it turns, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it through this. I thought I had it all figured out, and I don't. And every time it tempers me, it galvanizes me, and creates another path where I have this extra layer, man. Where maybe monetarily at that moment it hurt, but maybe it made me a little bit better of a person. It gave me a new little perspective on things, and actually made me better for the future. I mean, I think that kind of all goes back to wisdom. Like, we look at people and, oh, wow, they're so wise. And it's just like, God, they probably been through a lot of shit to be that wise, Like they probably dealt with some serious bullshit to get that wise, because they had to get their ass kicked a lot of times.
Yeah. No, I will say, I mean, I bought a house in 2019. So I had a mortgage, I had a new car to pay for, single girl, like everything's on me to pay for it. I didn't have like a dad that could help me out financially like that. So I had a lot of bills, so I was kind of panicking. I remember pulling my 401k out just to get things started, because I knew I wasn't just about to make money immediately. So it was a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. But I just stayed true to showing up as me and making those relationships. And now I see it as I was planting seeds, and I didn't really know it at the time. But that's kind of what this business is about anyways, planting relationship seeds.
Yeah. That's awesome.
There's a piece to that. And that's very important that you just said that, because it doesn't matter what business you're in. And that's something that can be universal, is about being able to have this self-awareness of being able to say, hey, look, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I do know that showing up, being in those relationships, touching base with those people later down the road, it's going to work out. Right. And you are planting those seeds of those relationship seeds, those opportunities. They're all being lined up. You're just not able to see the path all the time. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a cool place to be, once you can get down the road some and start realizing that, oh, this is what I was doing back then. I didn't realize it, but now it's working. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think year 3 in real estate is another tough year. I think year 1 is tough because, you're just learning everything. It's new. And then also no one trusts you yet. Mm-hmm. Year 2 is kind of like lucky syndrome year, when everyone is you're kind of blowing up, like you just blow up. And then year 3, I think it like dies down again. And so like you said, trusting the process of all the things that you're doing is going to pay off in your future business. But as a veteran real estate agent, do you look at people who are not even do you look at people who haven't made it past year 5? Are you kind of like, well, they might make it, they might not?
So that's a good question. My thing is, so I've got a team of agents, right? And I've got a few people who are brand new to the business, and I've got people who have been in the business longer than I've been in the business. And it's one of those things that 1 to 5 years is, I think it's even before then. I think most people don't even make it past the first year, period.
Well, yeah, I think it's like 89% or
Right.
something.
You're right. So most people don't even make it past the first year. What were you about to say, James?
No, it's just I did not know that statistic. 89% dropout. Real estate agents drop out in their first year.
Yep. And that's,
God, that should fire you up.
oh, and it I'm sure it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's
Like
one
that
of
has
those
to fire
things.
you up.
But it's one of those things that, knowing, most people get into this business thinking that it's, one, easy, two, they're not going to have any problems because everybody's going to use them, not knowing that everybody knows a real estate agent at some level of their family or friendships, right? And then following that further, majority of people just are like, I get to be my own boss, but not really understanding what that entails, right? And you both know that. Like, it's not just real estate, but it's insurance as well. Like, you get into that field of thinking that you're going to be your own boss and not really understanding, like, oh, now I've got to put my own standards into play, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I would assume building insurance business is similar to real estate, just like a lender, or they're all kind of similar.
Well, my thing is, to me, just talking about people dropping out or building it, number one, being your own boss, what they don't realize is that, or they should realize and process, is that if you're not careful, or I don't want to say careful, it's the truth. You're like a slave to the business at first. You're everything to it. You're not your own boss. You're the business's bitch. And you're going to do everything it needs to do, from everything in between, until you earn the right, until you earn the opportunity to start growing it and adding people. And that's the cost. It isn't being your own boss. You're not a cool entrepreneur. Like, you got to do everything. And then you start getting to earn those rights. Like, you go in the kitchen, you're washing dishes first. You ain't getting to be the head chef, man. So same thing applies. I will tell you, talking about being new and quitting, I think that's very black and white, and that's easy. The things that always concern me, I guess it's just because where I'm at in my career. I've done 20 years in insurance now, coming up on 12 years in my own agency. And the thing that gets me is the people that quit, but they actually don't leave the business. They quit in here, and it's just like they're on this, just they're resting on their laurels, and they put in the same work every day. And like, it's not really that much. It doesn't get them here. They don't take anything, but they damn sure don't give anything. Like, that's the interesting side of it to me. And that's the things that I'm always trying to focus and fight, because it's very easy to do. I could cruise now and life wouldn't be difficult, but it wouldn't be very rewarding. And I think that's more dangerous than going, hey, I don't like this anymore. I'm out of here. I'm going to start something new,
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think that's like a true entrepreneurial spirit, though. And I think if you get into real estate, or you get into insurance or lending or any business, and you didn't really have a serving heart or that entrepreneurial mindset, that you will probably burn out, or it won't really be for you, because if you don't keep leveling up and always wanting to give back and do more, then you will kind of get left in the dust. But I think that's not true for everyone. Like, some people, they get to a certain level and that's what they were meant to do, and they're good and they probably feel fulfilled. But like you just said, if you stopped, you wouldn't. Something would be missing for you.
Right.
Like, cruising doesn't sound rewarding for you. And I feel the same. If I were to just get comfortable, like, it sounds good in theory, like getting to a place where I'm comfortable and don't have to worry, it sounds good, but I would know I wouldn't be fulfilled, because I've already been in that position before.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good point. That's a great perspective. I want to add to that. Like, I'm not saying you have to just make it bigger and badder and better. That drives some, that does not drive all. My grandfather, I got his picture over here. He did 30 years on the line at Ford. He took pride in the work he did, but he worked that line at the Ford Motor plant, building vehicles. And that was his pride. But he didn't go out and try to make his own vehicle. You know what I mean? Like that was what he did. He took pride in it, and he was satisfied, but he worked hard and he showed up every day. I still remember the quote. I never got a paycheck I didn't feel like I deserved. That was his way of saying, I always work my ass off. You should too, you know? So I'm with you. I mean, I think you set standards of what you want to achieve, but there's a lot of people who hang their hat on, hey, my name's on the door. I'm my own boss, but they're weak because they don't put in the effort of being the boss. And if they're the only person having a real conversation in the mirror saying, hey, this is what I got to do, and this is how you got to deliver, and this is what you got to get done if you ever want to make this thing into something,
Yeah, well, hasn't leadership changed? I mean, I've only been a business owner for 3 years now, but just based on how I was, the leadership I had when I was in a career, it wasn't growth minded. They didn't value me really at all. And I was unhappy a lot because I didn't feel valued, even though I worked really hard. And, I thought someone should be in my corner kind of trying to grow me. And the reason why I left even the whole industry is because I didn't feel there was growth in it, because no one was trying to help me get to the next level. So I thought, well, I guess I'll just have to do it myself somewhere else, which I did. But I think now if you're leading people, you have to help see them where they're at and help them grow, because people do want to have more impact now, and they don't want to just show up and make a paycheck, or what I've noticed, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. And I think it's not just those, it's not just that level of standard. I think it also goes above that, of like seeing you where you are, right? Seeing you, who you are as a person, where you are at and where you want to be. And then being able to say, okay, James, you're here right now, but I know for a fact that you can be here. And then making sure that you can see the line directly from where you are to where you need to be. And then being able to say, look, we can do this together. We can do this, however you want to do it, but I'm here to, how can I support you? Right. And that's the difference between leadership and, management, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's cool.
I think leaders help other people grow, and managers, they're just, producing.
Yeah. And that's a good point. They're there to just make sure that things get done.
In the military, man, they would always, common term you would hear is, leads from the front. You hear somebody say that they lead from the front. There was a big difference between somebody leading from the front and leading from the back. The guy leading from the front was always putting himself in danger first. He was the one showing the path. He had the hardest battle of it. And there's a big difference in the individual who will be the leader from the front. And that's what a true leader is, out there digging in and trying to forge a new path ahead that makes the most sense for them and their people.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Hey, Alicia, so give us some points. So what words of encouragement will you give, if we got a listener that's been thinking about going out there bootstrapping that thing on their own, or going after, you're sitting there telling them, and they've been working at this company, just beating their head up against the wall, and they don't feel fulfilled. Like, what piece of advice would you give them to go out there and forge their own path?
I love that question, because now looking back, I wish I would have jumped in sooner. My whole thing is, if you have something on your heart, or if you have something eating at you every day, or you think about it at night, you think about it when you wake up, and maybe you don't even know what it is, you just know what you're in right now, isn't it? I don't think you have to have it fully all figured out. I think if you just have something that pops up and it just keeps eating at you, you have to go for it. Otherwise, you will miss that opportunity, or you'll feel that regret from not taking action towards something. I know for me, I was planning to coast into starting real estate because I wanted to keep a salary to pay the bills. And God just said, we're not doing that. We're going to go all in. So I got let go literally the month I got licensed, which is just his timing, honestly.
Wow.
So I had to jump all in immediately. So I don't suggest that for people who don't have a backup plan. Like for me, I had a 401k and I did pull it out. So if you have a family and you have to pay bills, like, I'm not just saying be blind and jump into something, but I don't think you'll ever get anything off the ground until you do fully jump in. And like you said, when you first start a business, like, you're in the trenches, you are the bitch of the business, that is number one. And if you do have a spouse, or a partner or something, I think you're going to have a conversation with them and say, this, I've got to go all in on this for at least a year. And I need your support on this. And it's not that I don't love you or value this, but if I'm going to make this work, like, this kind of has to be like number one.
Yeah.
And I'll just give my own personal testimony. I mean, I was in a relationship with someone, we were 7 years off and on, and I put the career first, and he wasn't understanding of that or encouraging of it. And we actually ended up breaking up and everything. So I guess technically it looks like I chose my career, but it also was another way of God, I think, saying he wasn't the one to help me get to keep moving forward. Because if he wasn't going to support me in that first year, he definitely wouldn't as I try to level up in the career.
Yeah.
I think that's an important conversation to have if you're going to start any business.
That's 100% real. I mean,
that is true.
That is 100% real, because a lot of people being true to themselves is something that they miss, right? They put themselves on the back burner for the people around them. Some people do. And then not being able to have that conversation of saying like, hey, this is something that is very important to me. You're also important to me. I want to make both meet in the middle somehow. But also I understand that, if I go down this road, it may be a lonely road for a while, but eventually things always come together. But you've got to be able to piece that for yourself and make sure that, like, you're journaling, you're seeing this thought pop up every single day, and you're like, this is something I need to do.
It's also difficult if, your partner or even your family, your best friends, they may not understand your vision, and they may not understand why you want something so big or why you even want to start a business. Like, they're not going to really be 100% supportive at first. And I don't know if they ever are fully all in until you've like reached that top, which is, going to take forever. But I think at least having that conversation with the very important people that you talk to daily, just having them have some sort of support, even though they may not understand your vision at first. Because I know for me, I've lost a lot of friends. My family's always supported me, but they've always been scared about, are you going to be able to pay your bills? Like, are you sure? All this stuff. So it's always you're already scared. You're already starting something scared, not figuring it out. So those other people who are adding fear to you, it's not going to help you at all.
Yeah. That, man, I'll tell you, there's so many things I can reference back to Grant Cardone's book, Be Obsessed or Be Average. I love that book. I really do, man. He makes so many valid points, but he talks about that with family. Like, it's their nature. That's what they're supposed to do. If my kid comes to me and puts herself at risk, I'm immediately going to go through and talk about why that's not a good idea. Because I'm her father. I'm supposed to do that. I'm her protector. Like, I'm supposed to look out for her. So, it's not they want you to fail. Or that they're looking for you to fail or don't think you're good enough. It's just they don't want to see you hurt, But the friend thing, I don't stress about that anymore. Like, number one, what was the quote we said the other week, Addison? You'll stop worrying about what other people think about you when you realize how seldom they do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then to that, like, I remember when I started in insurance, and my buddies, just in good fun, they would joke with me because, man, I would hustle. I'd get on the phone and I'd do whatever it took. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. And they'd laugh at me. That went away. The laughing went away once I started building what I have, and I got plenty more I could do. There's people who are way more successful than me, and that's fine. Good for them. But yeah, I don't stress about that. The people who actually care, they want to see me win. There's people that if I had to shut my doors tomorrow, they would be like, oh my gosh, you believe that? But it would give them some form of satisfaction for the lack of commitment in their own lives.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little like female perspective on this. It's a little different being a female entrepreneur, business owner, winner, anything, because at first, when you're first getting started as a female, people are cheering you on. They're like, yeah, you got it. You can do it. They're supportive. then you start getting a little bit of success and they're like happy for you, like, okay, you're paying your bills, like you're doing good. Then you get to another level where you're somebody. People, may put you on a pedestal in some areas of your community, or some people that they know are doing that. You start maybe getting a house that's a little bit more than they thought you could do, or just anything that you're doing. And that's when people start to turn a little bit and they're not as supportive. And that's when you realize those weren't your real friends. It's kind of like that crabs in the bucket scenario.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard of it, but you're trying to get out of the bucket and the crabs are pulling you down to stay in the bucket, because their limiting beliefs or their comfort zone, when you finally get out of that, don't know how to feel about that, because they can't imagine you being above where they're at, because they couldn't ever see themselves at that position. And so that's what I was talking about, the vision. Sometimes you got to keep that to yourself, because I remember my friends at the time, they weren't anywhere on the level I was at trying to be in the future. And so they don't even understand what I'm talking about and understand why I even want it. They think, well, it's materialistic, or, why do you want all these like things? And it's like, well, you don't really know what my big goal is, but they just see it as, why do you want money, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So people who aren't in that space, they don't understand it. So, and then the female thing in online, you're going to get people who, they can't stand that you have any level of success, no matter who you are or what you are. But then this other community that I built and found through Instagram specifically, I've made my best friends from Instagram. Like most people I surround myself with today, that I've started businesses with and that I like truly hang out with, they're from Instagram. And it's this community of support that I've never had before in any area of growing up, or the friends I had growing up. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
That's interesting. And it probably has a lot to do with what you're putting out, how you're putting it out, and how you relate to those things, and then how those other people relate to what you're putting out, right? Which naturally kind of cultivates just a natural bond, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, the saying, your vibe attracts your tribe, is super, it's accurate. That's why I think when people are on social media, and I was guilty of it at first, I was super buttoned up on there and a little more professional than I think my true personality is. Like, I think naturally I am a little bit put together, but then also I'm a hot mess. So that's like 50-50. And so when I'm not doing the hot mess part of me, I'm not truly attracting people who we would vibe the best together. And you start being fully yourself, you attract people who it's so fun to work with them, and they're raving fans of you, and they become good friends. You hang out with them. It has nothing to do with business, and life is just a lot more fulfilling in that way as well.
Which makes total sense. That's 1 + 1 = 2. It just makes sense. And you start adding those things into your life, and then your life starts getting that snowball effect of like, dang, I'm around my people that I need to be around. I'm around, I'm achieving the things that I want to achieve. And then those things just naturally start getting in that balance field, right? James, you've seen that, right? In your time in the business and doing those things. I know that I've seen pieces of it, throughout my life, where it's like things happen, opportunities come through, you meet new people, and you're like, none of this stuff is happening for not of a reason, right? Like all of this stuff has pieces to a puzzle, in my thought.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So with that being said, is there anything else that you want to add to anybody that is listening to this podcast? That one little thing that you just want to throw out there?
I would just say go for it. I would say you're still probably going to care what people think a little bit, because you want validation when you're first starting something. I think a piece of us all wants validation, no matter what stage we're in.
Yes.
Especially on social media, if you're going to start anything through social media. Personally, I think it is the easiest way to grow in the most authentic way, because you get to just show up as yourself, and you get to learn. It's a lot of work, but you get to be creative, you get to be yourself, you get to make connections with people. The technology piece of it, you just kind of learn as you go, but I would just say go all in and go for it. I don't think you can have 1 foot in and 1 foot out and make it in anything.
That's the truth.
I love that.
Jump
Good
into
stuff.
the pool. James, do it to it. Anything you need to add?
No, she tied a bow on perfectly.
All right, so guys, we want to do a shout out to our sponsors, Jocko Fuel and Origin USA, all American made products, all good stuff, quality protein, quality, pretty much everything that you need to support a healthy lifestyle, and also an American made lifestyle, which is also a plus. With all that being said, do not forget when you get to the checkout little piece of the website, put in the code GRIND10, and that's GRIND10 at checkout to get 10% off. James, do you think?
Grinder out.